Thank you, everyone. We will resume the council meeting. Who has that resolution to resume the council meeting?
I
Two. Councillor Bosma, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gannan that this council meeting does now resume an open session in the hour of 6:49.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Bosma and seconded by Councillor Gannan to resume an open session at the hour of 6:49. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk, who has the resolution to come out of closed session?
That was it.
That was it? Okay. Councillor Chichak, please.
Mr. Mayor, I have that resolution moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gannan that the Township Solicitor be and is hereby authorized to finalize minutes of settlement relating to a legal matter, bylaw enforcement matter, specifically with respect to trees being removed along Burns Road, and that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign minutes of settlement as presented in closed session at October 9th, 2018 council meeting in order to settle a legal matter, bylaw enforcement matter, specifically with respect to trees being removed along Burns Side Road.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Chichak and seconded by Councillor Gannan. Is there any comments or questions at this time? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Next one, Madam Clerk.
Councillor Gannan has item C, the amendment to budget.
I do move by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell that the CAO be and is hereby authorized to proceed with respect to an amendment to budget, if needed, as authorized in closed session with respect to personnel matters relating to non-union salaries.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Gannan and seconded by Councillor Terry Bell. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, thank you. Members of the gallery, we will now just recess just momentarily for like 20-30 seconds as we do a little bit of a seat shuffle. We're now going to recess the council meeting for the public meetings under the Planning Act. Councillor Chichak will be the chair of the Planning Committee. Okay? Thank you.
I know, me neither. It's my
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll resume this meeting, pardon me, we will resume in a public meeting under the Planning Act with regard to two applications that will be dealt with tonight. If you think you're confused, we're very confused. This is the last meeting of our current session of council. It's a combination of committee meetings as well as a council meeting, as the mayor's pointed out. And so things are a little different. We're not trying to fool anybody. We're just trying to get things done expeditiously. So we're now in a public meeting under the Planning Act, and the first application is, well, let me just say first before I go in that, I don't think we've told anyone that all cell phones, pagers, and PDAs should be turned off. Additionally, for your information, please be advised that we are audio and video taping this meeting, and it should be available within 24 or 48 hours of this evening. And anyone, we ask everyone if they would please sign in on the sheets at the side counter to ensure that you are informed and included in tonight's meetings. Okay, our first meeting for this evening is a public meeting to consider a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by John Emanuel. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, Sub 12, that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the amendment. The purpose of this meeting, this public meeting, is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the amendment to the Township of West Lincoln zoning bylaw. At this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. The Planning Act further requires that Section 34, Sub 13, that council advise the public that if any person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make a written submission to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal that decision of council to the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal, or LPAT. Madam Clerk, would you please advise the method and time on which public notice was given?
Yes, thank you. Proper notice was given by way of individual notice dated September 13th, 2018.
Thank you. And I understand that Ms. Madsen Ewell will be providing us with the background on this file. Thank you.
Thank you. An application for rezoning has been made by Vince Emanuel on behalf of John Emanuel to rezone the property municipally known as 5010 Regional Road 63. The property is located on the south side of Regional Road 63, Canberra Road, within the Hamlet settlement area of Wellandport. The applicant is requesting to rezone the northern portion of the subject parcel from development to R1A low-density residential to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling on the subject property. A minor variance application, A12/2013 WL, submitted by John Emanuel, was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on September 25th, 2013, which permitted the construction of one residential dwelling, which would replace the two-story brick and frame dwelling, which was destroyed by a fire in 2007. The proposed dwelling was never built after the minor variance, and through the creation of the township's new comprehensive zoning bylaw, the zoning on the subject lands was changed to development and agricultural. The property is a total of 23 acres in size. The development portion of the property to be rezoned is approximately 2.91 acres, 1.18 hectares, and is within the hamlet of Wellandport. This rezoning will allow for a single detached dwelling on the subject property where there is previously a single detached dwelling. Therefore, the proposed use will have minimal impact on the surrounding agricultural and residential uses. The agricultural zone portion of the subject lands will continue to be farmed under the agricultural zoning. Niagara Region staff state that based on the circumstances that have led to the hamlet portion of this property being zoned from a residential zone to a development zone, they advise that they do not need to be circulated on this application. Township Building Department, Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, and Septic Inspector have no objections on this application. Planning staff have not received any public comments. And planning staff recommend that the application be approved as it meets the general intent of applicable provincial, regional, and local planning policies and authorizes a new single-family dwelling in the hamlet settlement area of Wellandport.
Thank you, Ms. Ewell. Is the agent or applicant here wishing to speak to the application at this point? If you feel that if you feel that our staff have covered it, it's not required that you speak, but this is your opportunity.
Everything was covered just as per the application I have in front of me. Good. Good from my end.
Thank you, Mr. Emanuel. Okay, this is the point at which we ask public if they wanted to speak to the item. Anyone here present? Anything to say with regard to this application? This could change things yet again. It's not a further delay. It's just things we put together for our final meetings. So just so that you know, we are in a public meeting. That's a quasi-legal type of thing where we listen to members of the public and applicants put forward applications for changes to a piece of land within our jurisdiction. So council today, right now, is listening to this application. We will hear, we may ask some questions. Later on in the agenda, both of these items come forward as a report, a technical report, at which time council will ask a lot more questions. Anybody here interested in either of these applications is more than invited to stay and hear what council does with this disposition of the technical reports. Elsewise, when we're done here, we will go back into council. Mr. Treble, you wish to speak to this item at this point?
Just really briefly, Madam Chair, you mentioned it's a tech report, but this one's actually a rec report.
You're absolutely right.
We wrote it as a rec report because this is the last meeting of this council, and it's a pretty straightforward item, so we're hoping we can just sort of deal with it and wrap this one up tonight is
Fair enough.
why it's a rec.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one more time if there's any members of the public wishing to speak to this item. Seeing none, then I will confine it to table. Members of committee, are there any questions, concerns about this issue? Seeing none, then I'm going to go on to what it is I'm supposed to say, which is, please be advised that a recommendation report is being considered this evening by council, pardon me, later, and following the conclusion of the public meetings being held. If the zoning bylaw amendment is approved by council, a notice of its passing will be circulated with an appeal period. There is a public meeting attendance sign-in sheet, which is located on the table near the exit doors, which we would ask all here present to sign if they wish to be notified of council's decision with respect to this application. The attendance sign-in sheet, which is located on that table, has 2 columns. Please check the appropriate column listed as Emmanuel if you wish to be advised of council's decision. A note to members of the public, the owner and/or, I don't have to say that. That's right. Amen. This public meeting is going to be adjourned at 6:59. Okay. Our next public meeting is a public meeting to consider a zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by Lon Dodd. The Planning Act requires under Section 34 sub 12 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting with the purpose of informing the public in respect to the amendment. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the amendment to the Township of West Lincoln's zoning bylaw. At this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by council and committee in their consideration. The Planning Act also further requires under Section 34, sub 13, that council advise the public that if a person or a public body does not make an oral or written submission, to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, that person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the township to the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal, or LPAT. Madam Clerk, could you please advise the method and dates by which notice was given?
Proper notice was given by way of individual notice dated September 12, 2018.
Thank you very much. Mr. Boerma, I understand you will be providing the background on this particular application.
Thank you, Madam Chair. An application for rezoning has been made by Haval Dodd on behalf of Lowen Dodd for a residential property located on Silver Street, west of Abington and east of Casterville Road. It is located immediately adjacent to Pyatt Springs and has a municipal address of 9371 Silver Street. The application by Mr. Dodd is to permit an additional 4th apartment unit within the existing 2-story building on that 0.7 acre lot. Prior to 1995, there was a restaurant on this property with an attached dwelling unit, and in 1995, that portion of that restaurant burned down and was destroyed by fire. In 1996, a minor variance was approved to allow for a reconstruction of that building and an addition of a 2nd floor. That was during the time when this property was within the rural cluster of Abington East or Abington West. However, this designation has now been removed. In 2011, the former owners were found to be building some new decks on the exterior of the building and subsequently ordered to provide or get building permits. As a result of this, it was found that the property was still zoned commercial, which did not permit the residential uses that were existing. A zoning bylaw application was made to permit 5 dwelling units at that time, 2013, by the former owners. Only 3 units were approved at that time, since that's what corresponded to the impact assessment. The 4th unit, which was existing at that time, was removed through a change of use building permit and was inspected by the township building inspector at that time. After the following zone change, the new septic bed on the property, which was required from that zoning change. That septic bed that it was installed is for 5 units. And those 5 units include 3 2-bedroom dwelling units and 2 1-bedroom dwelling units. Staff conducted a site visit on October 1st, including the township septic inspector and myself, to confirm that the septic system was still functioning properly, and the septic inspector confirmed that it is functioning properly as designed. During the site visit, it was also noted that there appears to be some interior and exterior work being done to the building, and the building department has been notified and are going to follow through on an inspection to determine if a building permit is required for the work currently being done. One member of the public did reach out to planning staff through a phone call with concerns over the application, but did not submit written comments or did not leave a name or number. These comments were concerning the function of the septic bed, which staff has gone out and reviewed and determined that it is functioning properly. And planning staff recommend that a recommendation report be prepared once all public and agency comments have been received, and once the building department confirms that there are no longer any issues on the property related to what's going on there today, and once a full planning review has been completed. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Borma. Is the applicant or agent for this application here wishing to speak this evening?
I can speak if you need me to add a note.
If you're satisfied with what it is that our staff have presented as your case, you don't need to speak, but this is the opportunity if you so wish.
It was very clear, so I don't have anything to add.
So if you could please stand up and tell us your name so that we could have that for the record. The clerk will not be bugging me.
My name is Loan Dog. I'm the original property owner of the dwelling. So it was already very clear of Mr. Garrett, with all the details that he provided, that this original property was supposed to be a fourplex. At least that's the way I bought it, but it turned out to be a triplex, which I was not aware of, since it was my first time buying this property. And the reason why this application wasn't approved, I believe, because there was a problem with the septic system. But as Mr. Garrett notified you that it is able to support four-unit dwellings.
5. Am I correct? Just for a point of clarification, is it the septic tank will support 4 or 5 dwellings?
It is designed to support 3 two-bedroom units and 2 one-bedroom units, and the additional 4th, so right now existing on the site, there are 3 two-bedroom units, and the 4th is also planned to be a 2-bedroom unit, so that existing thing
Okay.
can accommodate it.
It's because it's tonight. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. We've gotten to that point now. Are there any members of the public here tonight wishing to address this application? Sir, I was probably wrong in not asking the immediately past speaker to come to the microphone. If you could come forward, state your name and address, we would be very happy to listen to what you have to say.
My name is Steve McDonald. I live on the adjoining property at 9367 Silver Street. I was the one that actually called around concerns for the septic bed. It appeared to me that in speaking to the contractor that put it in, that the septic bed was not fully completed. He had stated that they were going to put a swale in to redirect the water because they raised the property so much and all the water was running down in my yard. That they were going to address that and put a ditch in towards like the main ditch of the line, but that hasn't occurred. We've also had a number of incidents with previous tenants, nothing against the new owner, but the extra number of people, there were car break-ins and stuff like that going on in the neighborhood that were directly attributed to former tenants, nothing to do with Mr. Dodd or anything like that. So my concern is more about just the septic bed and whether it's, I recognize they've changed it to 5. I know that there was leaching from the previous septic bed that did run into my property. So basically that's just my concern, that it is addressed fully, and I would like to see the ditch put in to redirect all the flow of water to the front.
So just for clarity, your request is simply about the septic system being passed and approved, but you also want the natural drainage, just surface water?
They put the new bed in, it's with the raised beds that they have to put in now.
Yes.
It changed the slope of the land, so it basically brought their side of the property up 2.5, 3 feet, and all the water, all surface water runs into my yard. Previous to that, there was leaching from the old bed. I recognize that's been addressed, but again, the contractor had stated when he was putting it in that they would put something in to direct all that extra overflow to a main
Surface drainage to a swale out off away from your property?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else here this evening wishing to address this issue? Seeing none. Comments, concerns, questions? Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to Mr. Borma.
If you could just come closer.
Any of that runoff that he's talking about, when they went over and looked at the septic bed, was the bed looked fine? Was there any evidence that water was flowing onto the neighbor's property?
Through you, Madam Chair, when we did the site visit, there was no leakage of the bed, but the bed was significantly higher than the neighbor's property, and there looks like there could be a low spot along the property line. That's what I noticed when I was out there, but we mainly looked at the septic bed itself, not any drainage on the property.
So, Mr. Treble, is there an issue we have with surface drainage as a result of the changes to the site?
Through you, Madam Chair. My thought through you, Madam Chair, would be that we'll talk to the applicant and see if we can find a resolution to this concern prior to bringing back a rec report. So hopefully by the time a rec report comes back, this issue's been resolved one way or the other.
Thank you. Councillor Rayner, you still have the floor.
No, that's fine. I got that.
Councillor Trombetta, did I see your hand?
No, Councillor Rayner.
Okay. Councillor Ganan.
Okay, thank you. I found it very confusing as I read the report, and since the applicant is here, through you, Madam Chair, I just want clarification. And I think we've heard it, but I just want to hear it for sure. So as I'm reading the report, it talks about the zoning application was made in 2013 for 5 units, and then staff recommended at that time that only 3 units should be there. And then it goes on to say that there's a change of use permit to remove the 4th unit, which was existing. So it sounds like the number of units has come and gone over time with this place. And it's now on, and it does say it's unknown at this time if a 4th unit does exist or has existed. So if we could get clarification, I mean, I know the application is for a 4th. Has there previously been a 4th? Is the 4th new, or is it just to confirm the existing 4th unit? Whoever might have that answer, I would be delighted.
I see Mr. Treble going after his microphone.
Madam Chair, just to basically confirm that I think we're all of that same curiosity, even on the staff side, we get the impression that it may have been sold with 4 units, even though there was only supposed to be 3, but that's never actually been said. So if it can be said tonight,
Okay.
then we know for sure.
Is it appropriate to ask Mr. Dodd, Madam Chair?
We might want to ask Mr. Dodd about that.
Yeah, so
If you could come to the microphone, Mr. Dodd, sorry. I let you away thinking I was having a short answer last time, but the reason we asked you to come to the microphones is that that's the way to get the recording to sound more legible or more understandable if people try to listen to this on our website afterwards.
yeah, of course, I understand. So when I bought the property, there were like 4 tenants. So the property seller told me that it was, legally a 4-unit property. But when I purchased the property and I found out that the permits weren't supporting the 4 units, then I had to apply for the 4 legal unit, because that was the intention, to get 4 units. And this was my first property. I wasn't aware to do the due diligence of how the documentation worked. So I kind of, screwed up on not knowing the 4 unit wasn't a legal 4 unit. But then the report says that this was already like a 4 unit previously, and it was able to support a 5 unit with the septic system. So now I just want to, get the permit done so we could finally end this issue with the permits.
Thank you. Councillor Ganan?
Okay, so Mr. Dodd, you really are just looking to get permission for that 4th unit that's already existing, but you want the
Exactly.
paperwork to be in place for that?
On paper,
Okay.
legally.
Fair enough.
Because it wasn't legal, and I rather, go through the documentation and have this, properly zoned, instead of going through a lot of hustle in the future.
Okay, so do you currently have four people
Yes.
occupying those units?
No, there aren't. I want to move in there myself.
Okay.
Yeah, so the reason I had a flood, it's a long issue. I had tenants that actually, caused a lot of damages. But again, I don't have the evidence, so I don't want to, accuse anybody of anything. So right now we're in the process of fixing some of the flood damages and hopefully moving as soon as we can.
So when the inspection was done, and they realized that you were doing some construction, you were actually doing some repairs due to damage? I see,
Yes.
okay.
And there was a lot of unknown damages before I bought the unit, with like mold and mouse infestation. It was just a big mess, and it was my first property, and I kind of screwed up. I sold my car, and I had to, give up a lot of my own, assets with this property, and I wasn't lucky, so I'm just hoping to get this permit done and finally end this, issues.
Okay,
I've
thank you
been
very
through a
much.
lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are those all you? Okay. Others? No? Okay. Seeing no others, please be advised that this is a technical report being considered by council this evening, and the recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future planning committee and/or council. Please also be advised that once the planning committee and/or council has made a decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of its passing will be circulated with an appeal period. There is an attendance sign-in sheet located at the table near the exit doors, which we would ask all present to sign. Please indicate that when signing the attendance sheet for this evening's council meeting, that you place a check mark in the column marked Dodd if you wish to be advised of any subsequent meetings regarding this matter. Therefore, though, people who are interested in observing council and or committee meeting discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on a mailed notice and thus miss the opportunity to attend the meeting. It is suggested that you watch the township's website for postings of agendas to review items that will be discussed at a council and or committee meeting. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township website at 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also noted on the website for the public to view. If you wish to receive notices by mail, it is suggested that you include your email address with your mailing address and your phone number on the attendance sign-in sheet. I declare this public meeting completed at 7:18 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the planning portion of tonight's meeting as to the public meetings, and we will now turn the chair back to the mayor for the opening portion of council.
Folks, we're just going to take a 30-second recess. Gentlemen, welcome again to our council meeting for Monday, October 9th, 2018. Prior to commencing with the council meeting agenda, I would ask that anyone in attendance this evening please sign the attendance sheet to my right, to your left, right over on that table right over there. Also, I'd ask that all cell phones, pagers, and/or PDAs to be turned off, and I would note that this meeting is being audio and video recorded for your viewing pleasure. Could we all stand for the singing of O Canada and remain standing for the opening petition by Councillor Trombetta? O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use our best skills and judgments, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral, as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens.
Okay, welcome everyone. Start off with number 4, the change in order of items on tonight's agenda. Are there any changes in the order of items on tonight's agenda? Seeing none. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest from any members of council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk. Number 6 is to request to address items on the agenda. Are there any members of the public present who wish to address a specific item on tonight's agenda as permitted by section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw, which reads as follows. Requests to address items on the agenda are restricted to specific items as follows for section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw. Public comment at council. There shall be no comment from the public permitted at council unless A, a specific appointment has been scheduled or an item is included under other business. Is there any members of tonight's gallery who wish to come forward and speak? Sir, could you come forward to the podium? Please state your name and your address for the clerk.
Good evening. My name is Bob Paquin.
Can you spell that, Bob, please?
Paquin.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a resident at the Atwater complex, unit number 3, and that's the issue that I would like to speak to this evening.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
So, these are my words. I haven't shared them with anyone. I'm not here to cast aspersions on anyone, to point the fingers, to blame, whatever. But we live in a wounded community. That's my word. It has been there since the beginning, and it persists to this day. This council is involved with this. You're into it up to your neck, as is Phelps, as is our condo board, as are all the residents. I mean, I point to the participation tonight, the outpouring of residents that came to this meeting as a result of a spray of emails that occurred in the last week or so amongst the community. And I just found that to be alarming. So I just want to appeal, I suppose, and talk to the different constituents involved here. Phelps, the builder, the owner, this council, the board, the condominium board that represents us, and the owners. And self-serving to say, in my view, it's the owners that have to be at the top of the list. So there are a lot of issues, persistent issues. People are upset. I'm upset. But I'm here because I care to get this right. Right? One of my favorite examples is I know there's buzzing going on around privacy screens, and they're not situated properly according to the site plan, or what I call the survey. Well, that's true of the privacy fence sitting in my backyard. That's been there from day one. I don't know who's to blame. I'm not here to blame anybody. But I think the owners have an interest in all the constituents banding together to get this all fixed. It can't be good for Phelps to know that there's a wounded community under their banner. I would think they would care about that. I would think this council doesn't want to get involved with this noise anymore. Put it behind us. Well, but we're dependent upon your involvement to help push this through. I know our condo board is working hard to get this stuff resolved. At the end of the day, it requires all these constituents to band together with the common purpose of healing the wound that is hurting us. And it starts with working hard towards that common purpose, being open and transparent with everybody. Good news, bad news, difficulty, simple. Right? Again, I'm not here to blame anybody. I'm past that. But we have an issue. Just look at how many people came tonight to this meeting simply because emails were spraying around. And I don't want to read unofficial backdoor emails. I want official information coming from my board and or, I suppose, this council. But I just want to voice that. That's all I want to say. This is a serious matter, It's persisted for several years. And I honestly don't know how it's going to get resolved, short of if there was a magical reset button, I'd love to push it. But I want this council to know, these are my words, but I'm sure there are other residents that are liking what they're hearing me say to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not sure who was second, but I will go just in the middle, right there. Sorry, please take the podium, please. State your name and address. And then I'll go to the lady that was to your right with the glasses. Okay?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Lodato. I also live at, my husband and I live at the Atwater neighborhood, number 22.
22.
Okay. So, Mayor, councilors, and members of the public, I'm here tonight to speak to the proposed amendments to the Atwater site, landscape, and grading plan agreements that you were discussing in the September meeting. My aim is to hopefully provide council with some insight to the situation from an owner's perspective, and in turn receive some much needed information. To begin with, I want to be very clear. The owners of Atwater have received no information from our board related to this issue. It was by sheer luck that one of our group happened upon the September minutes of Town Council. These minutes and the YouTube videos of the meeting constitute the sum total of information that we've been privy to. We also found out about council meeting tonight quite by accident, so I'm grateful that we did and we were able to come here and speak to you. It is clear we have a problem with transparency and communication. In addition, we have some confusion related to the roles and responsibilities of our board. We will deal with these issues outside of the meeting and outside of council. Suffice it to say that because of this information gleaned from council minutes, we are aware that Phelps Home has applied to amend their original site, landscape, and grading plans, and they have been found to be in contravention to these plans. My husband and I are concerned for several reasons. Number one is we don't know the difference between the original documents and the amended documents. And because of this, we don't know the potential implications for us. This is a source of anxiety, to say the least. Despite the fact that we bought and paid in full for our home over 2 years ago, there has been no mention of monetary compensation for work that has not been completed in these discussions. What we do know is that Phelps Homes would like to walk away from this incomplete, non-compliant work scot-free. Third, we are concerned about potential future issues related to these incorrect, incomplete works and the costs that may be incurred by the homeowners of Atwater down the road if something requires major fixes or repairs. The majority of us are retired and on fixed incomes, so this has great relevance to us. For allowing a company that claims to be a professional home builder to receive unconditional absolution for shoddy workmanship, incomplete work, and poor planning is a dangerous precedent for anyone to set. We respectfully request a list of changes from original site, landscape, and grading plans to the proposed amended documents so that we can compare them and get reliable information to base our decisions upon. We don't have that information. Those councillors who expressed concern about putting the cart before the horse at last month's meeting were, in our opinion, quite astute. We request that council not move forward on this item until proper consultation has taken place with the owners at Atwater, and we have provided our board with instruction. Thank you for your time.
Yes. Can the clerk have a copy of your presentation, please? Sure. Could you just bring it up and maybe just hand it to Councilor Bell or I've given the gallery just a little bit of leniency here tonight with no, it's not. I've given the gallery a little bit of leniency with clapping. We don't allow clapping in here. If you could just refrain from clapping. It's very emotional. I understand that. And the speakers are doing a great job. It's not easy to get up here and speak in front of your peers or in front of council and your friends. But if we could just refrain from clapping, I would really appreciate it. Okay? Thank you. I'll go next to the lady with the glasses there.
My name is Kathy Bristow. I live at Unit 46, the unit from hell, from day one. My unit, as Brian knows, we've had numerous dealings with, swale issues, water, some pump going off 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last 2.5 years. My husband and myself have been fighting with Phelps, with the community, trying to get it fixed. It finally did get fixed this summer. We're not sure if it's 100% because our house was built lower than the road. My concern is, and I wasn't prepared for this meeting, I just flew in from Kansas City and just found out about this through emails. Phelps has got away with a lot of things in building. They've lied from day one. If we hadn't come to watch our house being built every weekend, an 1.5-hour drive there and back, or actually 3 hours, then we would have had a house that the walls were all built wrong, that different parts of it was flooded. There was cracks in the foundation that were there, and they insisted they were fixed. And every time we came back, they were still there, and we walked in 3 feet of water. This builder, I know through my sister-in-law, who's a real estate agent, father was a great builder. His son has made a disaster of this area, and he has made it bad for the 46 units in this complex. The only good thing about this complex is the neighborhood. We all are great people who love our homes, but we don't love what we've had to deal with. And now this continues on. I have a unit that has a privacy fence on it because my unit is right near the road as you come in. Phelps put that up. We didn't ask for it. And they have left us a 3-foot area to go into our backyard. And yet in the paperwork that the board continues to tell us about putting fences in our yard, they tell us that the fences have to come from the corner of our house and have to leave access in the back for firemen, ambulances, people doing any type of work on their yard, our neighbors, and yet Phelps and our board has said it can stay there. They're now saying that they're going up through lawyers and they want us to pay for it. I don't want to pay any more money for a company that is disrespectful to the owners, does not contact us when we email them, including Paul Phelps. I don't know whether or not any, and I don't mean this rude, but I don't know if any of the members on City Council are working for Phelps. More than working for...
I think, madam, you're crossing the line there a little bit.
I'm sorry, but
Okay.
no, I'm just saying that it's just that we seem to be...
We'll be very careful on how you put that, okay?
Okay, no.
I would retract that statement if I were you, ma'am.
Okay,
really
I
would.
will rephrase. I will apologize for that.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. It just seems that we are fighting a never-ending battle that just doesn't seem to, go away. And we want it to get fixed. We want to live in Smithville. Terry Bell has been very helpful in coming to our home, talking with us, and when we have had issues and trying to help us as much as he can. Brian has been helping us as well. We are frustrated.
Okay.
And this amendment for them walking away and not paying anything for the damages that they have done, the site surveys that are wrong, that needs to be fixed and needs to be changed.
Okay.
So again, I apologize for my comment.
Well, I quite honestly, ma'am, I just asked you to retract that because I did
I
hear...
do. Well,
I did hear through the weekend that there were emails that were basically saying something to that, and that is
Okay.
just not true. So
Okay, I retract.
For your
what I've
benefit, I would
said.
say
Yeah,
that.
I apologize to every one of you for saying that because, it's just the frustration. So I am really sorry that I've said that to council.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. I did see another hand out there too as well. Yes, if you'd like to come forward, please. Name and address.
My name is Kathy Copping. I live at Unit 16 at 37 Brookside Terrace. I'm the president of the board. I'm the one that was spoken about, myself and my colleagues, at the last meeting by Councillor Terry Bell. And so I'm not here tonight to talk about the site plan because we've been working very closely with the municipality and our lawyers, and I've been advised not to speak about the site plan, but I would like to thank this board for not putting that through at the last meeting. You saw clearly that we were not in agreement with the site plan, as was said here. If we were, we wouldn't have lawyers working on it. So we can't make a decision on whether or not we're going to do anything with that site plan. It's up to the 46 people who live in that block. So I cannot speak to the site plan here tonight. What I came here for tonight was to get an apology from Mr. Bell for calling our council a joke. 3 people who work very, very hard for that community. 3 people who have worked overtime over the last 3 years for that community. 3 people who have been to all the meetings trying to deal with Phelps, who left us hanging for 2 years doing nothing. But Terry Bell seems to think we're some kind of a joke. So I just wonder how he could take a community that is so special as ours. And it is a special community. We have some absolutely wonderful people. We have people that are friends. We have people that get together socially. It is a unique community. And you just can't talk about people like that. He has sullied our name and said nasty things about us. And so I don't like the fact that he can stand up in public and say things like that about us when he knows nothing about it. I realize that he does talk to people within the community when they don't get the answer they want from the board. But in a condominium unit, and we are unique because it's not just a condo, it's everybody owns their property from the road to the back fence. They own their property. So there's a different, they think differently about it. Obviously there's more that they can do. It's not a regular condo. But when they don't get the answer they want from the board, then they go off to talk to Terry. He doesn't tell them what the next steps are. He's actually had information that we have a problem in our community between the board and the people, and he actually goes and talks to, by his own words, Brian Treble. Is Brian Treble supposed to come and tell us we've got a problem? And he saved all these little problems so that he can say we're a joke. If he could counsel these people to say, these are your next steps. Let's have a look at your declaration. Let's see what can be done as far as, whatever. But let's get together and take steps instead of packing away all these little problems and not telling. Why isn't he on the phone to me saying, Kathy, you got a problem over there. These are the things that are happening. No. But he can sit here and counsel and say, we're a joke. And I take issue with that. Big issue. Because the 3 people on this council, damn it, we've worked hard since the very beginning. And still are. We have a lot of work to do. We are so close to coming. We have a meeting planned for our owners on the 9th to come together with our lawyer to look at that whole thing. We're working towards it. But we don't get any better by having people in council calling us names in the community. We're a moving forward community of great people that give back to their community. We're special. We're very special people. So I would like an apology, a public apology from Mr. Terry Bell.
At this point in time, ma'am, this is not the part of today's, this is not the part of this council meeting right now. We will be coming back to this. Hold on. We will be coming back to this later on the agenda, which will give Councillor Bell the opportunity at that time to put forth or not an apology. This right now is what we call a request to address items on the agenda. So we hear you. We hear what you stated. And what you've asked of Councillor Bell, please stay tuned to see when this comes forward later on the agenda, what and if there will be an apology forthcoming.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other members of the gallery? Yes, sir. Come on forward. Your name and address and your unit number, please.
My name is Nick Finelli, Unit 1. I remember when we looked at these houses, I asked my lawyer one question. Are these freehold? He said, yes, you can do whatever you want to your house. Well, I guess he was wrong. I pretty well have to call Chabris if I want to go for an extended period in my bathroom. That's how bad it is. We have to get approval for everything. My tenant, who lives in Unit 1, actually was asked by Chabris Properties to remove the Canadian flag. She also asked, Chabris asked to remove all of your election signs. I think that must go against some kind of rule here in Smithville.
Actually, it doesn't, sir. There's a new rule this year under the Municipal Elections Act that says that no condo boards can stop a politician from putting up a political sign during the period that is stated by the township bylaw.
Right. I thought so. A little bit about Phelps. Yes, I think somebody stated the builder from hell. Not my house from hell, the builder from hell. It's terrible. I'm pretty sure most people did not have a good time buying their house. Am I right? My house was ready to close. They called me to do the final inspection. I went there. We used a stepladder to get onto the porch. We went inside. There were no doors. There was no water. There was no electricity. There was no copper plumbing. I said, how can you get an occupancy permit? We'll have one by tomorrow. Just close the deal. I refused. So one of the worst experiences of my whole life was dealing with Phelps. Again, the builder from hell. This other thing about why we are here tonight. We are here tonight, and I'd like you to hear this word. We're here tonight over a fluke. That's why we're here tonight. We didn't know about this. We didn't know about your last meeting, and we certainly didn't know about this meeting until the very last minute. It leaked out. I think a little more transparency is needed from our board and also Chabris. I received an email from Chabris. It was, to me, it was almost like a wedding invitation. Save the date for November. There's something coming up. Mm-hmm. I mean, regards Chabris. I mean, what kind? We should be consulted before these actions are taken, not after. And we're all in the dark. We actually pay Chabris money to represent us, so that may end soon. But that's all I have to say. I wanted to give you a little bit of history on Phelps, and I wanted to really tell you why we're here tonight. We didn't even know we would be here tonight 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. It just leaked out. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, sir. Okay, any other members of the gallery that would like to speak on this? Please, ma'am, come to the podium and your name and address and your unit number, please.
Yes, hello, my name is Ruth Eucades. I live over at Atwater, and my unit is number 20, and I'm on the board. And I'm not used to speaking publicly, so I'm going to be a bit breathless, probably. I would just like to point out, in answer to taking the flag down, there is actually, we're ruled by rules. We've got a declaration, and we have rules. The board hasn't come up with those rules. We absorbed them from Phelps. So we're just abiding by those rules at the time. Now those rules can change, and hopefully some of them that are so obsolete or stupid we will be able to get rid of. Mm-hmm. But at the time we asked number one to remove their flag because it was tattered, which is an insult to a Canadian flag. It's a new one now, but the fact is there is a rule that says you cannot put anything on the outside of your building. So we were just abiding by the rule for now. But as I said, hopefully that can change. Now, regarding this lack of information, I know it's frustrating. I'm an owner over there. My husband gets frustrated because I can't tell him anything. But the reason they have a board is so that we can iron out the nitty-gritty until we know exactly what's going on, and then we can share it with our community, which is the meeting coming up. It's the Condominium Act of Ontario. You have to let the community know X amount of days before a meeting that there's going to be a meeting. And the form gets sent out, and there's a little blurb in it, and it said, you know, that our corporation lawyer is going to talk to us about this site issue.
Mm-hmm.
He's been working diligently between Mr. Treble and Phelps, and we're trying to make sense of this because this was dumped on us. And I'm sorry, but there was misinformation at the last meeting. The board is not behind this whole idea because we don't understand this idea, and also we cannot be behind it because we've got 46 other homeowners who have to vote on this. So we've been put in this difficult situation, and we've had to get our lawyer involved, and that's costing more money than we should have to pay. Phelps should be paying it, I think, because they've put us in this bind. What else was I going to say?
Can you tell us, because we're going to be on YouTube in the next couple of days, in the next 48 hours, when is this meeting planned? I'm hearing the 9th.
It's November the 9th. 7th, sorry, November the 7th.
Okay, that's what I
Now,
thought, but I did hear someone say the 9th earlier,
okay,
so.
So 2 weeks, again, this is the
please.
Condominium Act of Ontario, so Shabri has to abide by these rules, otherwise they get in trouble.
Okay.
So they sent out this formal notice that I know it's kind of short, it's official looking, but it was a save the date. Then 2 weeks beforehand, a huge package will be sent out with everything that we know, the lawyer's opinion, everything. We're actually hoping to get a site plan assessment to see where has Phelps stepped across the line and not done what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
But so I can't speak any more about it because I'm not the lawyer, and I don't want to say something that could come back and bite me.
For sure.
I just want homeowners to know that we aren't, as a board, being secretive and doing things behind their back. They elected us to do the dirty work and come to them with the information, which is what we are trying to glean.
Okay.
But we are not in support of this until the lawyer can explain everything to us.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Yes, sir, please come to the podium. I think if nothing else, there's a lot of people in this room getting a lot of stuff off their chest, and that's not a bad thing, right? That's an okay moment.
So my name is Ernie DeWall. I'm in Unit 41. I think we can save a lot of time and effort here tonight with a couple of clarifications. So in the September 17th meeting, the one thing that was mentioned several times was the fact that all 46 people would have to vote to agree to it for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can assure you it's not going to happen. You will not have my vote under any circumstance. So I also have a question for the planning department about how long they wait to ensure that the enforceable agreements are taken care of by the builder. That becomes one of the issues.
Are you talking about the subdivision agreement, sir?
I am.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Treble has heard that, and later on when this report comes forward, I'm sure he'll answer that, or one of the counselors or myself will remind him to answer that and give you an answer to that.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Anybody else? I'll ask a second time. Anybody else to speak on anything on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none? Very good, thank you. We will move on to appointment and presentations. We have an appointment this evening being Ms. Donna Harrington and Karen Lemieux. They're from our Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, which is a presentation to the winning businesses of the JAAC's We Are Accessible Award. So if they could come forward. Thank you, Garrett.
Hello. The Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee of Lincoln, West Lincoln, Pelham, Thorold, Niagara-on-the-Lake, and Grimsby is pleased to announce and recognize this year's winners of the We Are Accessible campaign. The campaign recognizes local organizations and businesses who have made efforts to provide accessibility for people with disabilities in their community. There are 2 recipients of the Township of West Lincoln, Tim Hortons and Giant Tiger. Both businesses offer a high level of accessibility for customers in exterior and interior areas, and both provide excellent customer service. On behalf of those living with disabilities in our communities, I would like to thank you for your efforts to these 2 businesses. And I'm not sure if either of them has sent a representative.
Is there anybody here from Tim Hortons and or Giant Tiger?
They're probably working.
They probably are.
So we will make sure that they get their awards, but
Okay.
we want to make it known that we presented to them.
Very good. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, council, we'll move on to confirmation of minutes. Council minutes, regular meeting, September 17, 2018. Councilor Rayner, you have that resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Jason Trombetta that the minutes of an open session portion of September 17, 2018 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the September 17, 2018 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Councilors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councilor Rayner and seconded by, I believe, Councilor Trombetta. Yes, it was. Is there any comments or questions with regard to the minutes? Yes, regular minutes.
Mr. Mayor, is this where we would be asking questions about the item on the Atwater, as it is part of the minutes contained of our September 17th meeting?
You could, or you could wait until 9C, which is under Kathy Coping, President, Board of Directors, Atwater Townhouse Development, Amendment to Atwater Site Plan Agreement. So you could wait.
I'm just making sure that
Yeah.
we don't lose sight of the fact that there are some comments that want to be made. So I'll refrain from commenting now and wait until 9C.
Okay, very good. Okay, seeing no more comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Sorry, I saw a hand. I do not take hands from the gallery at this particular point of the meeting. Okay, we'll move on to communications. 9A, it's under Mr. Russ Loudon, who is the president of the Board of Directors for the West Niagara Agricultural Society. It's a request to waive the site plan amendment fee. Councilor Trombetta, you have that resolution, please, sir.
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I move by myself and seconded by Councilor Rayner that the correspondence received from Mr. Russ Loudon, president of the Board of Directors of the West Niagara Agricultural Society, dated September 19, 2018, requesting that the site plan amendment fee in the amount of $2,310 be waived, be received, and
Councilors, you've heard the resolution moved by Mr. Trombetta, Councilor Trombetta, and second by Councilor Rayner. I'm looking for to be received and
Mr. Mayor, for discussion, I'll put "and waived" on just for a discussion.
okay. Is there a seconder for that? So, and waived? And supported, usually is what we do, right? And I need a seconder for that, right? No? Okay. Okay, so we have and supported on the floor. Comments or questions to that, please? I'm not sure who was first. I'm going to go to Councilor Balsma, please, first, and then Councilor Bell.
Okay, fine. So I was just wondering if it's possible or if it's up for debate whether we could do it as a reduction. Have we done that as a reduction, or is it like an all or nothing, or can we just go 50-50? So those are a couple. That's my concern. I would, on a personal level, I would consider reducing it by half.
Right.
And But I can appreciate what Councilor Chichok to get on the floor, but I don't know. I don't want to make this, 65 and have a bidding war. I would favor something in between, meet them halfway, but at this point, that's all I wanted to get on the record.
Okay, I'm just going to go to...
Mr. Mayor, at the appropriate time.
No, I was going to go to you to get an answer. Is that a possibility? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, as the mover of the motion, adding the item at the appropriate time, once everyone's had their discussion, it may be suitable for us to put in an amendment or
Absolutely.
change that.
Councillor, I realize that. I'm just asking for if that's even a possibility at this point in time. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Hendry?
Sorry about the confusion, Mayor Joyner. Your question is can we do a different amount?
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, this is going against our current policy, so this is going to be a council decision anyway. So it's going to be council's call as to what you do in terms of waiving or not waiving or waiving part.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. Councillor Bell, please.
Yeah. So the amount of money being asked for, I would like to see it waived. And the amendment, I believe Councilor Chichek may be asking the same thing I was. That West Niagara Agricultural Society, everything they do out there is done for our community. It's not done for themselves. So this amount is very small. It's less than $2,500. And it should be waived, every penny of it. It's a one-time, every application has its own merits, and they speak volumes. During the course of the year, there's many, many functions that go on, and it's our community that benefits from this. So I would support Councilor Chichek's motion she's going to bring forward.
It's already on the floor,
To have
Councillor.
it waived.
It's already
I'm in favor
on
of
the floor.
waiving it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Trombetta, then Councillor Chichek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Just reading through this in the agenda, I guess they had a little surprise they had, and some fees that they incurred that they weren't expecting. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Treble, can you just give me a little history on what it transpired? I guess it was a site alteration or through the permit that they had a little surprise that came to them?
Mr. Treble, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, back around January, I think it was, we dealt with a site alteration application that was recognizing works that they had done on the site the month prior or the couple of months prior. And the report and recommendation that went through Planning Committee from staff was that they can be issued their site alteration permit, but the site plan needs to be updated because the works they were doing were not consistent with the site plan. So it was approved with a condition. The site alteration was approved with a condition that they proceed forward with the site plan application, and it's an amendment, so a red line fee, or I'm not sure what terminology is being used, but it's the amendment, so it's sort of half the regular fee.
So to be very, very clear here, this is not a fee for a site alteration bylaw. It's the fact that they did a site alteration which affected their site plan, their original site plan, and therefore there's a red line revision in place, and ultimately a fee that's asked for that.
That's correct. It's to do a site plan.
Okay, thank you. You still have the floor, Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Brian, just help me out. So this new site alteration, obviously they're a big supporter of our community and such. What are they doing exactly other than are they filling in some lowlands? Are they just building up for the fairgrounds? What are they doing with this, off the top of your head, if you can for me?
Some of the councillors may know better than I do. They were putting fill in, I think, to sort of make a sloped area, grassed sloped area for a viewing area to do with, was it the demolition derby? I'm not sure which part it was. I'm thinking that, but.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Perfect. And those are the answers that I'm looking for, Mr. Mayor. So I tend to agree that this should be waived. This is to support some of our community. The derby is a big, huge draw to our fair every year. People come from all corners to come see that derby. So I don't have an issue with this. I think it's something that's needed there, and the fact that they came and asked, I don't have an issue with waiving this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chichek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do believe that, first off, if we want to talk about waiving, reducing, or somehow eliminating the cost, that's an issue. If we want to come to an agreement so that we're not precedent setting, we could ask for a special allowance or a, what is it that we give to people? Grants. And we could take that from a contingency or something so as to allow the approval of this reduction of fee and not create any kind of precedent-setting issue. We have all around this horseshoe complimented, bragged, and in fact made the West Niagara Agricultural Society's facilities that are located in West Niagara ours. We have talked about them being part of us, and we have been so excited about what they brought forward. And yet, throughout their term, their predecessors as the Smithville Agricultural Society, they fell on hard times in the late 40s or 50s, and we ended up getting the entire fairgrounds, which we are now putting our new recreation facility. When they were moving to their own fairgrounds, they gave us a deal on their structure that sits in the middle of our soccer fields. They have been good stewards to this community. They have given to us gifts that we would not have had it not been for the hard work of the volunteers that run that. And when I put this on the table for a discussion, it wasn't to haggle over $2,300. It was to remark on the work and the success of that particular group. Now, I know that the world is getting more complex, and with everything we do, there's new forms and new costs that we associate in fees to support our staff and to support our operations here at the township. But I do believe that there needs to be a way, and I would turn to Ms. Henry for guidance in that, because the waiving, if that produces a difficulty, we may want to look at a motion to be made that says we reduce it, our treasurer's here, and have our treasurer go to the appropriate reserve or contingency to waive this fee, because in fact, what we're really saying is we're not trying to issue something that's precedent-setting, but we're trying to recognize the excellent works of what that group have done for us. The fact that they pay taxes on that property, they've given to us gifts that we will never get from anyone else. I'm talking the township. And I just want to think that at this particular juncture, the cost of what it was to do that work is driving that organization further away from being a balanced income statement for this year. And I think we could do something to help them over and above what it is that we do in grants regarding the fair. And all we do there is close roads and give them an exemption so that they can get a liquor license for the beer tent. So I think it's totally appropriate that we find some way to settle this, and whatever we want to call it, in a non-precedent-setting way, give these an exemptions, or in fact, resolve the issue of the fee on their site plan amendment. So I'm for this, and I will be voting for this evening. I just want to make sure that Ms. Henry and staff are appropriately comfortable with the way we use the wording.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Before I go to Councillor Ganan, I just want to ask one question of our Director of Finance. Ms. DeFilippis, does in fact the West Niagara Agricultural Society pay taxes on that property?
Through you, Mayor Joyner, there's specific legislation that exempts agriculture societies from paying property tax.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councillor Ganan?
Thank you. Just further to what Councillor Chichok was saying, I did want to point out that for the public who think, oh gosh, they're not having to pay any fees for something that's being done, the report that's in front of us says that on March 27th, they received a letter from the township reporting that their application for a site permit, the fee was $1,000 for that they were paid, and they paid that in full. But, and so I'm sure that they were scrambling to find the money for that as well, because they're all about fundraising to put the fair on. But then further to that, from March till suddenly June 15th, then they receive, okay, so now that you've paid your fee, you now have to pay a further fee for the red line revision. And so I think that sort of in my mind says that they've paid a good portion of this, and if there's a way to grant the rest, I'm in support of that as well.
Okay. Seeing no other comments or questions, I will call the vote. All those in favor?
I do want to make sure that whatever the wording is, that we support.
It's be received and supported.
That's fine.
It's plain and simple. Okay. All those in favor? Hands up high. Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Andrea Feller, Niagara Region Associate Medical Officer of Health. It's an email relating to cannabis legislation, including the PowerPoint presentation, report PhD 15-2018. Now, Dr. Feller is not in the crowd tonight, is she? She's okay. That resolution, Councillor Bell, you have that resolution, please.
Yes, I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Godin that the email received from Andrea Feller, Niagara Region Associate Medical Officer of Health, dated September 28, 2018, which provides an update on the cannabis legislation, including copy report PhD 15-2018 as presented at the September 4th Public Hearing and Social Services Committee meeting and endorsed by Regional Council at their meeting September 27, 2018, be received and referred to staff for report and recommendation at future Planning and Environmental Committee council meetings.
Councillors, have heard the resolution moved by Councillor Bell and seconded by Councillor Gannett. Is there any questions or comments leading to Dr. Andrea Feller's report? No? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor then, please. Okay. Carried. C, 9C, Kathy Copping, President Board of Directors, Atwater Townhouse Development, re-amendment to Atwater Site Plan Agreement. Councillor Bosma, you have that resolution, please.
I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Bell, that the correspondence received from Ms. Kathy Copping, President of the Board of Directors for the Atwater Township Development, regarding an amendment to their site agreement be received and...
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Bosman, seconded by Councillor Bell. I'm just going to read it one more time. That the correspondence received from Ms. Kathy Copping, President of the Board of Directors of the Atwater Township Development, regarding an amendment to their site agreement be received and ... Councillor Bosma.
So my question is it appropriate to refer to staff? Is there some direction that she's asking that we can or cannot make a recommendation to? So could I get some guidance on that?
Sure.
What would be the... Yeah, okay.
Let's go to Mr. Treble. Mr. Treble, do you understand the question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I only understand, I think, part of it, so I'll start with what I know I can respond to. The township planning staff received an application to amend the site plan for Atwater towards the end of August, I believe it was, and undertook an internal review and at the same time communicated with the board of the condo corporation, and was in discussions with them, advised them that the plans were available for review, and I think that was September 5th. September 12th, there was discussions also with the condo board around probably the process required to sign the agreement. That was the 46 signatures that we had a discussion about last month. I don't know where to go beyond that, except to say a complete application was submitted from Phelps Homes, and staff processed it like they would any other application that's received with funds.
I kind of sort of know what I would do in this particular case. I know that we've heard earlier that there's going to be a big meeting on November 7th. So as opposed to, I don't know, maybe putting the corporation at risk, I would maybe push a decision off, just saying.
I think I still have the floor.
You do, Councillor.
At this point, I think it would be just wise for us to just receive it as information and let the board do their work with their residents. I think we had this discussion last time. We didn't want to foil a plan.
That's right.
And so, but at the same time, so I don't know. I think our place at this point is to observe and facilitate as best as we can with the staff. It sounds like there's lots of dialogue between residents and our staff and the board and our staff, and so at this point, I'm comfortable to just receive this as information.
Okay. Mr. Trouble?
Just, if I may, Mr. Mayor, 2 additional points. First, I think it's only fair to assume that the township would communicate through the board, since that should be the body that represents the association. If that isn't the case, then I think they need to figure that out as well. And secondly, beyond that, in response to the question that was raised, I am still holding, or the township is still holding, security for Phelps Homes. It is not a lot anymore because there is a substantial amount that has been released, but we still hold security, and believe me, I'm not letting go anytime soon.
Okay. That's your answer, sir. I can't remember the gentleman who asked that question, but did you hear that? Can you put your hand up if you... Okay, you heard what he said? Okay, thank you. Still looking for comments or questions. Councillor Chichek, please.
I believe that I only have a concern about a couple of things that have come up tonight, and that is that we as a council or as a committee deal with items that are brought before us. And if there is a public meeting to be held, we have requirements under regulations to send out notices to everybody who's affected by what is there.
Mm-hmm.
And we send them out, 150 meters around a site, or to the people around the site, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Trouble. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, it's 60 meters for minor variances and consents, and 120 meters with respect to any other planning matter.
Okay, thank you for that. Because I am just concerned about the couple of comments that got made tonight, because I think we should be leaving this to you, to the condo group, to have their meetings. But I don't think that there was anything underhanded ever being done here. There is a process for any kind of application, and the members here tonight see what happens in a public meeting where there is changes to the property. So my number one concern is the fact that if there was no notice given to members of the public, that be something that they deal with in their own condo corporation, because our agendas are posted. We do reach out to the public. Lord councillors, as I've heard this evening, deal with members of the condo group. I'm not trying to move away from any responsibility the township has, but I also don't want any false understanding of the fact that we are doing anything underhanded. When something comes forward, it's on an agenda, we deal with it because it's been brought forward and it's been precipitated by either the owner or the agent or whoever is still in control. And that might be Phelps, it might be the condo corporation. So I hope that you people achieve, and I mean by that, the owners, whether it's Phelps and yourselves, the condo corporation, because it is important that you resolve the methodology of coming to the township. Some of us may not be here next time in a couple of weeks, but you will be here. This corporation will be here, and you have to figure out how to deal with the township as a body in order to get your understanding of what process is impacting your community. Because I would say that my second concern is that it's unfortunate that at our last meeting, council did not limit their comments, just saying we're putting the cart before the horse. Opinions and casting aspersions on players in this issue are not appropriate. And I understand that this meeting of November the 9th is going to take place, and I hope that at that meeting, much more than just your roles as a condo corporation and or residents in that condo are going to be resolved, so that you all have an understanding that no one in this process, at least at the township, has an interest in trying to put anything through underhandedly or without the appropriate notice. So I've had the opportunity to walk through that subdivision, and I know that there's a series of misconceptions or whatever, and I think it's now time that you people all got your understanding and came to us as one. So I leave it at that, Mr. Mayor, and I would hope, and I look forward to the outcome of your November the 9th meeting.
Mr. Treble.
Just to make it clear, Mr. Mayor, the site plan process does not require a circulation, either 60 or 120. So there was no circulation requirement in that process. But what I did do immediately was notify the the board of the president. No, try that again.
President of the board.
Chabris, their lawyer, and Phelps. So all of those people were notified the moment the application came in. What they did with it beyond that clearly wasn't good.
Okay, so Mr. Treble, say that one more time, that the site plan, you do not have to...
There are no circulation
No
requirements
circulation,
to a site
okay.
plan, but I did reach out to President of the Board, Chabris, the lawyer, and Phelps. Phelps was the applicant, so they
Okay.
knew.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I would like to make one. There needs to be a kumbaya moment over there. There's a lot of really excellent people that have come from many four corners of the GTHA and all of Niagara to come to Atwater. It's beautiful over there. And I traveled over there today and I looked in some of your backyards and there's a lot of nice work that has been done over there. I understand that there may be some issues with your builder. I allowed for a little bit of leniency here today to talk about the builder. Maybe I shouldn't because it was all about site plan, but some things had to get off a lot of people's chest here today. And I want to thank all of the speakers who got up and spoke. It's not easy to speak in front of council. I understand that. There's a lot of hurt feelings over in Atwater right now, but it's an excellent, excellent community. And I know that you people will figure it out with the help of the township, with the help of Phelps, with the help of Chabris, and you will come to a conclusion. I can guarantee you that. There may not be everybody who's in agreement with it, but at the end of the day, I think that's why you have a condo board, and you have to get a majority. Never says, it doesn't say in the condo board that 100% of the people have to agree, only a certain percentage. And I do not know that percentage, Ms. Copping. I think it's 75 or 80%. Am I correct in that?
If you want to make changes, yes, different things have, whether it's rules or the declaration. The declaration, you need 80%, and rules, you need 50, and yeah.
Okay. So my thought is that there needs to be more transparency with the board of directors. You need to reach out as much as possible. I know you're doing the best that you can do, and I know it's not easy. And at the end, and at the time when you were just figuring out that board, I'm sure there was a lot of people that looked around the room sideways and said, I'm not putting up my hand. And 3 individuals did. So God bless them for doing that. But everybody else has to work with the board and with all the other proponents there to come to some kind of healing moment, because it is an excellent, excellent community. Okay? That's all I'll say. Thank you. We'll move on. We have to vote on this agreement be received, and received is what I'm just received. Okay. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we'll move on to D, Township of North Stormont Resolution, lower tier government's financial exposure of green energy companies forfeit their responsibilities under the Ontario's Green Energy Act. Councillor Chichuk, you have that resolution, please.
I do, Mr. Mayor, and I'll put that forward, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gannan, that the resolution dated June 26, 2018, from the Corporation of the Township of North Stormont requesting the Province of Ontario to extend its area of responsibilities to include any costs that municipalities may have to inherit from the green energy projects, i.e. water quality or site restoration, infrastructure repair, etc., be received and supported. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put in there.
Received and supported is what you would like to put in?
Yes, sir, and at the
And
appropriate time.
you want to speak to it too?
I would too,
Okay,
yes.
go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And throughout this term of council, myself and Councillor Bilsma have sat on the multi-municipal task force with regard to issues that affected municipalities that had the Green Energy Act impose upon them a reduction of their ability to object and or refuse wind turbines. And we now have inherited a number of wind turbines in our community, and as the Green Energy Act is being modified, scrapped, or whatever, as it results in the finality of it, there will be an opportunity for every municipality to object or disagree in having turbines there, unless they have certain conditions met. So in other words, there will be more responsibility replaced or placed back into the hands of local communities. So the issue that concerned a lot of communities beyond and above anything that we lost was the fact that the companies that installed the turbines, built and installed them, and in fact had the contracts, had no obvious requirement to remove them at the end of the term, or when their natural life had been reached and the turbines were no longer stable in the environment. And since that is not the responsibility of any order of government, and it may end up in the then owner of the property, we may end up as the municipality responsible for the cost of taking them down if that landowner decides, I've had my day with the turbine, the land isn't worth it, and walks away. So we would be held, the municipality would be held holding the bag at the end of the term. So, are liable for any kind of damages. I doubt that, but to address that item, the Corporation of the Township of North Stormont started a resolution that said exactly that it therefore be resolved that the province of Ontario extends its areas of responsibility to include any cost that municipalities may have to inherit from green energy projects, such as water quality, site restoration, infrastructure repair. That includes, in fact, the taking down of the turbines. Now, the Multi-Municipal Task Force has been largely focused on turbine installations in the western and northwestern part of the province, and we have not brought any of the motions that have been discussed there because they're not necessarily relevant to our particular situation here in Niagara. But this one actually does have relevance because all it's doing is asking the province in their removal of constrictions to municipalities on wind turbine projects. It says, please go further and find someone who's supposed to pay for this and order it or put it into the legislation. So I think that Councillor Bilsman and I feel that it's our last act as the representatives for this municipality, and we should ask for that resolution to be received but also endorsed.
Okay, questions or comments? I do. I have one. I can either go to Councillor Bosma, Councillor Chichuk, or Mr. Treble. I'm just going to put it out there. Does not the province have money put aside for decommissioning of all projects across Ontario? I understand that they do. Which I understand decommissioning may or could be different than what we're talking about here, because we're talking about the cost inherited with the examples of water quality, site restoration, and infrastructure repair. I'm just looking at decommissioning. How does that differ, and is it the same?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the best of my knowledge, when the actual contracts were signed, decommissioning was not part of the discussion at that point. It was to be done later. There may be a pot of money somewhere, but I've reached out to the current government, the new government, because they're proposing a repeal of the Green Energy Act, and I've said to them, just let's be careful what you're doing, that when you don't abandon this act, that we don't get saddled somehow. So, and they didn't, the guy I reached out to did not know the answer, so they were going to investigate further. So I don't have an answer. Sorry.
Okay.
And to that point, Mr. Mayor, in reaching out to the Multi-Municipal Task Force, it's their understanding as well that if there is a pot of money, who knows if it's still there, the government has changed, if it was there, it's never ever been brought to the attention of municipalities who in fact inherit these turbines, that there's money to be for the decommissioning. So I believe it's prudent for us to ask for this, prudent for us to look to the government to have it there, and somehow that it's in legislation that will survive these projects, contracts with the existing government of the day.
Councillor?
I just wanted to add that there's the contracts negotiated with the hosts were protected from scrutiny, because of course, you know, it was between a host and the landowner, or the host and the wind company. So on hearsay, there was an amount kind of thrown out there, so that's all that I have, and that amount, if it's accurate, is not even sufficient to lower the blade. So one way or the other, the reality is that this is a very real concern for us, and it's something we're going to have to deal with in about 18 years or less.
But we don't actually know because we've never seen the contract, though.
And that's
It's speculation.
That's
Okay.
the total speculative nature of it, and that's why we're kind of stabbing blind. So it's very appropriate for us to proceed with the understanding that since we know officially nothing, then there's nothing there.
Okay. Ms. Hendry, can I ask you a question? Can you do some digging in with the Ministry of Environment and Energy to find out if there is a pot of money there for that day 18 years from now?
We thank you, Mayor Joyner. We will endeavor to do that, and I'm also going to be checking with our lawyer with respect to our current contract, as it's a new issue, and that's something that we really do need to make sure that we are managing.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Rayner.
Thank you. I was one of those many individuals that was approached back then for turbines. They wanted to put a number of turbines on my property. And that was one of the reasons, not all the reasons, but that was one of the reasons that I did not do that, was because there was nothing at the end to say that they would assume the liability and responsibility for any environmental disasters that occurred on the property. And to me, the risk was far greater than the monetary reward. There were other factors also, but that was one that was very much important to me, and there was nothing that I was aware of. So the landowner will be responsible for decommissioning at the end, regardless of the cost, and it's up for them, I guess, to hope that it's not an environmental disaster in 18 years, and it's going to cost them more than they received in the last 20 years for it.
But again, sir, you don't know 100% if that's what it says in the contract. You're speculating.
I would say I was approached, so let's just put it that way, and that's one of the reasons why I turned it down.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, I'm being a stickler on this point because I don't want to create fear-mongering, okay?
No, but-
No fear-mongering. We don't know. We haven't seen the contract, so I have to make that abundantly clear. Councilor Chichuk for a second time.
So that is why I've chosen to accept the endorsement of this, and I would ask you all to consider it, because it is that any cost that municipalities may have to inherit from green energy projects. So if they don't have to inherit them, then it's not there and it's
Right.
moot. But the point is that we spent many an hour, day, month, in fact, year, splitting this community across for the fact that some people would get turbines and others would end up paying for it in their taxes. So it's not fear-mongering that I'm trying to do. It is saying that if
It's
the Green
being
Energy
prudent.
Act is seen to be needed to be changed, we're being prudent in saying, we'd like you to think about it, because we ended up with the turbine project that took away our rights before you considered this particular action you're doing now. So I don't see it as fear-mongering. I see it absolutely as prudence for our future in this community.
Okay, very good. Okay, seeing no more questions or comments, the resolution is to be received and supported. I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we'll move on to number 10, Mayor's Remarks. I'm not going to give any Mayor's Remarks tonight. We'll move on to report of committee. There are no reports of committee. The definition for reconsideration is there for your viewing pleasure, and the definition for notice to rescind is also there for your viewing pleasure. Other business, all items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless council member requested, in which case the item will be removed from the consent regulation and considered immediately following adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. Councillor Ganand, you have the consent agenda items, please, the resolution.
I do, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chichok. The council hereby approves the following consent agenda items. Number 1, items 1 to 6B and are hereby received for information, and 2, item 7B and is hereby received, and that the recommendation contained therein be adopted, with the exception of items, and so far, Mr. Mayor, there are none.
Okay, thank you. So, councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Ganand and second by Councillor Chichuk. Are there any items that any members of council wish to pull at this time? Councillor Bell, please.
Item 1.
Item 1, Heritage Committee minutes, okay? Any others? Okay, so seeing that, we will vote on items 2 through 7. All in favor? And that is carried, okay? And now we'll go to item number 1. Hold on one sec, Councillor. We're just getting, we pulled it, so we're just getting a resolution signed here. Okay, that the Heritage Committee meetings of a meeting held on May 15, 2018 be received for information. That was moved by Councillor Chichak and second by Councillor Trembetta. Councillor Bell, you pulled it. Go ahead, sir.
Just for clarity, DB inquired about the cost. GB said he received new quotes that will be able to incorporate nice lighting in addition to the mural. The committee would like something historical looking as long as Public Works can maintain them. Public Works normally does maintain them, so is this some kind of lighting that we wouldn't maintain normally, we'd be able to? Just,
Okay. So, Councillor Busman, do you want to answer that? Or you want me to go to Mr. Borma? Mr. Borma first. Okay, Mr. Borma, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they're just regular gooseneck lighting that I think we just want a Public Works approval for them so that they're confident that's the type they want.
Councillor, you good with that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Any more questions or comments about that? I will call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, Section B, Planning, Building, Environmental Items. Planner 2, Madison Yule, and Director of Planning and Building, Mr. Brian Treble, report number PD 150-18, Recommendation Report, Zoning Bylaw Amendment for Mr. Vince Emmanuel, 5010 Regional Road 63. This is file number 1601-021-18. Councilor Rayner, you have that resolution, please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself and second by Councillor Jason Trombetta, that one report PD-150-18 regarding Vince Emmanuel, 5010 Regional Road 63, Canberra Road, application for rezoning file number 1601-021-18 dated October the 9th, 2018 be received. And two, that section 34-17 of the Planning Act apply and that no further public meeting is required. And three, that application for zoning bylaw amendment 1601-021-18 submitted by Vince Emmanuel on behalf of John Emmanuel be approved.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution. Moved by Councillor Rayner, second by Councillor Trombetta. And as Mr. Treble said earlier, we are looking for a recommendation report, not just a technical report tonight. Questions or comments, please? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you. Okay, sir. You can go. Or you can stay. Section C, Administration, Finance, Fire Items, CAO, Beverly Hendry. This is about employee professional accomplishments. Just asking for the CAO to give us a report on employee professional accomplishments. See you, folks.
Thank you, Mayor Joyner. This is the point where we get to talk about the good training that our staff have had. And with the opening of our new spray pad, we've had 3 staff that have gone through the spray pad practitioner training program. Those being Vanessa Hoffman, Steve Hyde, and Gavin Dasiak. And they are really anxious to be able to employ those skills now that they have been trained. And I'll do a little bit more about that when I do the MERS update.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Section D, Public Works Recreation Arena Items. Again, Ms. Hendry, CAO. This is a multi-use recreation site update, otherwise known as the MERS update or our community center.
So, members of council, this is a status report on our new recreation and library site, and I'm pleased to inform you that the project continues to make satisfactory progress. Since the outdoor features opened at the end of August, they've been used by residents and guests of the township with much enthusiasm. And as you've just heard, staff have been trained on the spray pad practitioner program, and the installer will be coming in very soon to shut the splash pad down for the winter. We never imagined that we'd be having 28-degree weather in October. The biggest update today relates to the opening of the library, and our CEO, Vanessa Holm, will be updating you on this in a moment. Work is currently progressing with the remainder of the building, and throughout September, work was undertaken in the arena area, placement of the sub-slab cushioning, heat line plumbing, refrigeration piping, and the concrete pad pour is currently scheduled to commence on October 23rd. And that would be a significant milestone for the arena project. Work is underway on the second floor mezzanine area, and the next area of focus is the gym, where the flooring, basketball nets, and bleachers are planned for installation the last week of October and the first 2 weeks of November. And staff are now focusing on the operational for the facility, including staffing, maintenance, and fee structures. And this is really important, something that needs to be communicated whenever you have an opportunity to communicate this. The library and outdoor features, so the splash pad, skate park, and playground, have all been assumed by the township and are insured accordingly. But the remainder of the facility and the parking area continues to be a building site and under the supervision and responsibility of wall construction, and therefore not open to the public. So we've had a number of people looking at that beautiful parking lot, wondering when they can use it, and until that is no longer a building site, will they be able to use it. But it is coming very, very soon. So finally, the last thing is our capital campaign is continuing to show good progress, and our seat sale by the Kiwanis is moving along very satisfactorily. And that's my update.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, members of council, for Ms. Hendry? Councillor Chichuk, please.
You know my question, and I ask it all the time. And I go back to where, it was going to cost us $7.2 million plus $500,000 for a splash pad and a skateboard park. But at that time, we knew we had to either spend it on a new one or spend it on an old one. And that decision was made, and some of those votes were even unanimous when we went to reconsider that. So we were going to have to spend $7.2 million regardless of what we did. But my question is being that when we set the budget and when some of those votes that were unanimous approved it, I said, please come back and tell me if there's going to be any overruns. And I know that some of my colleagues said, well, unless it's like substantial, don't come back. But we're at the end of the term. And I know that there's been very careful consideration to every aspect of that facility. And I know that we are taking great strides to make it come in on or under budget. Is there any indication, Ms. Henry, that we are going to go over budget on that facility at this point in time?
Ms. Hendry, please.
Through you, Mayor Joyner, to Councillor Chichuk, at this point in time, the project is tracking very well in terms of budget and very well in terms of timing. And they're, at this point, without any unforeseen large issues, this project will be coming in on or under budget.
That is music to my ears. And I do know that the generosity of this community on the capital campaign, while it's not completed, is in fact exceeding the tracking that we expected to have. So I'm very pleased to hear that we made a choice not to put lipstick on a pig and to decide to build something new, because it was one choice or the other with the first $7.2 million, which is what it was going to cost for taxpayers to support this facility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments at this time? No? Okay, thank you. We will move on to now E. It's a verbal presentation by the CEO, West Lincoln Public Library, Vanessa Holm. Vanessa, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Joyner, to members of council, I'm here to deliver a status report on our new Smithville Library. As CEO Bev Hendry has stated, the library is going really well. Occupancy was granted and we started moving items into the new library last week. Staff offices are now set up as of today and operating out of the new library. Our first open day is scheduled for this Friday, October 12th. So while we'll still be in the process of setting up the library, we wanted to open to the public as soon as possible just so we could start with regular library service. Furniture continues to be delivered and set up in the new space, in addition to computers and IT wiring. It's a busy hub right now of activity. The Historical Society did a tour of the new library last Thursday. They saw the museum and storage areas and gave some ideas as to what type of cabinetry would be ideal for their display. So it was great to have them on site. Also, operational plan for the library, which includes maintenance and fee structures. And finally, just a reminder to everyone, we did send an email out that we are hosting an open house and tours of the new Smithville Library on Tuesday, October 16th, between 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 p.m. Next week is actually Ontario Public Library Week. So,
Perfect timing.
yes, it's wonderful timing. So this will be an informal drop-in style of event. Library staff will be leading tours through the new space between those times. People can come, have a look around, chat with community members, enjoy some refreshments, and celebrate Ontario Public Library Week in West Lincoln.
Hold on a sec. We can drink? We can eat in the library?
You can.
Oh. This is something new. Sorry.
That's okay. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from councillors? Okay, so again, that date is October 16th, between 2 and 4.
Between 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 p.m.
And 6 and 8, okay.
So again, informal drop-in, have a look around. Staff will be leading tours.
Guided tours, okay. Staff's a little excited, aren't they?
Staff are extremely excited.
Might be exhausted a little bit from
yeah.
carrying all those books over too as well, but good,
Yeah.
okay. Ms. Andrew, will there be adequate enough parking? I think there will be, if we just park in the old parking lot and you know, since we can't move into that new parking lot just yet. We're hoping.
Parking is tight, so if you can go over together, please try to do that. There's also parking at the United Church as well.
Right.
There's the other parking, but some of the work crews have tried to create a little bit more space. We're certainly operating the hockey programs are going on, so people are parking through that. I think we'll be okay.
Okay. If I may, can I just ask you another question? How's the landscaping coming along too as well? I know this is not actually a library question, but
I haven't been on site since last Wednesday, but I think what I did see the landscaping there. So the trees are going in, the sod is going in. They're sort of making their way around, starting the track on the outside as well.
Okay.
It is a really beautiful site.
okay, good. Thank you. Any last words?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right, thank you. We'll now move on to miscellaneous items. Members of council, council remarks. I'll start to my left, your right. Councillor Rayner? Okay, thank you. Councillor Trombetta?
Mayor, I think it's fitting to say at this point, it came to an end.
We still have bylaws to do. No, just
I
kidding.
understand, but this is the point where I say this. I just want to say for the past 4 years, it's been my honor to work with all of you. I know we don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, and maybe not everybody's back, and maybe some of you are back, and staff as well, and obviously members of the public. Just wanted to say it's been an honor working with you the past 4 years. Though we didn't agree on everything, we still got a job well done for this community. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. It was a pleasure. You know, yes, I tossed and turned some nights going to bed, 'cause, you know, just the decisions that are made here. And but I have to say that when we all left this chamber, every single one of us, we still got along and still talked and saw each other in a public forum. We were all respectful with each other. And that's one thing I like to say with this term of council is that no matter how hard we battled, no matter how long the nights were, sorry for tapping, that's my little thing, you know, we still, as soon as we walked past those doors, we didn't keep a grudge, and we still worked hard for the community in West Lincoln. Always came first for all of us. And staff, thank you very much for all your hard work, receiving all our calls, and taking everything into consideration, what we had to do and get forward. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. And that's all, Mr. Mayor. I'm quite sure now I've started up, and I'm quite sure other people would like to add to it, but I would say thank you very much. Obviously, our clerk and our CAO, thank you very much for all your hard work for these past years, and it's been an honor sitting with you guys around this horseshoe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chichak?
Well, now he started something. You know, we usually save this to the 22nd, about 9:07, when everybody finds out where they're sitting next term, but or not. And I do think that it would be, it's not wrong to say to the staff and to this community, it is always an honor and a privilege to serve. And but our staff have been always a supportive group, and as much as they've grown in the past 4 years in experience and age, they've also helped us to do the same thing. So to them, kudos for what you've done for this community, and may that continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chichak. Councillor Ganen?
Thank you. I'd like to tap into that because I joined this council in 2016, so everybody has been especially very helpful for me. And so I also say thank you. However, that wasn't what I had on my list. And so I do want to say that the community care dinner is upcoming still on October the 20th. There are still a few tickets available if you're interested. This is a dinner, a fundraising dinner held at the fairgrounds that is in support of those in our community who are not as fortunate financially as many of us, or find themselves just in difficult circumstances for a short period of time. So especially for new residents, if you're not aware, the store that's on Industrial Park supports our food bank, and this fundraising dinner also helps to support that. So come on out and do that. And since we talked earlier about the Fair Board, I thought that we should give a little bit of a heads up to people that they are having a fundraiser also on Saturday evening, an Oktoberfest evening, and tickets are available at the door or ahead of time, and certainly they would love to have people come out and join us for that.
Councillor, what's the theme for this year's community care?
Community care dinner is Colors of the Caribbean. It starts at 5 with some steel drum. The guys that used to play at the Poultry Fest breakfast years ago are coming to provide some entertainment during that 5 to 6:30 time period.
And tickets can be found, and how much are they?
Tickets are $55 each. You get a $20 tax receipt for that, and they're available at the Furniture Warehouse.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Councillor Bosma.
Well, because Councillor Trombetta brought it up, it has been certainly a very memorable and enjoyable experience the past 4 years. It's amazing how quickly time flies. I sat here 4 years ago in the gallery, and we put our name forward, and I remember a couple of councillors at that time saying how quickly the time flew for them. And they were at the end of their term, and I thought, yeah, that's quite remarkable. 4 years, just like snap of the fingers. But now I can say with full confidence, it's been, where's the time gone? What I wanted to highlight was we've had a lot of excitement in our industrial community in the past month. Not the least of which was the ribbon cutting ceremony at the Gleaners, and that event far exceeded their expectations in terms of the support and showing of the community and the sun, and it was it's going to be a fine facility, and in addition to our community, when it gets fully operational, and sometime in the next month or so. Of course, there's like any kind of production, it's going to ramp up, but that was enjoyable to be part of, and many of the councillors were there in attendance, and I think it was well noted, our support, the council support to that as well. There was the opening of the new woodshed, and it's something very much exciting to see. I know the name hardly even applies to the building that they now, but I remember when the woodshed was pretty much a glorified shed. And see that, well, even before that, it was the little red garage at the front of the property. I remember shooting boards down from the upper room through a hole in the floor and hand bombing them through that. Anyways, all that to say that was very exciting for that organization, the way that they've grown. And then I also attended an open house at the Niagara Pallet Recyclers, and that organization is also going through quite a transformation. The sum total of my comments are this. West Lincoln is a vibrant community that's growing in all its sectors. It's firing on all its pistons, and it's an exciting time in our community to be a part of this, and hopefully shape it for the future. The council next term, whoever they may be, is grabbing the reins at a very exciting time, and hopefully that can propel further the municipality.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bell?
Just like to echo what fellow councils have said, and it is an exciting time. this council's moved our community forward in great strides, and there's much more to be done. And I hope the council coming on board continues to move this community forward the way it should be. I'd also like to say thank you to the staff. They've been wonderful. There's one member of the staff that is now retired, and when she watches the video, I just want to say a special thanks to her, and that's Miss Carolyn Langley. She was our senior clerk, and she kept each one of us out of trouble every week. That was her main function, and I'd like to thank her for that. She was a wonderful lady, so other than that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, councilors, each and every one of you. Okay, we will now move on to new items of business. Is there any member of council that have any new items of business? No? Okay. See none, Madam Clerk. We'll then move on to summary of bylaws. And we have Councilor Trombetta. You have that resolution.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Rayner that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2018-96, 97, 98, 99, 100, and 101, and that the same shall be considered to have been read first, second, and third with one reading and hereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be hereby authorized to sign and affix corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Thank you. Councilors, you've heard the resolution read out by Councilor Jason Trombetta, second by Councilor Rayner. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. The mayor would declare the meeting adjourned at the hour of 8:53. Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming out.
Here, Joanne. Thank you.
You don't want to keep it going?
No.